Have you ever shared something personal, only to feel a quiet regret afterward, as if you had handed a piece of yourself to the wrong hands? In a world that rewards exposure and punishes silence, wisdom is learning what to reveal and what to protect. The Stoics knew peace belongs to the discreet. Stay with me, and you'll understand why silence is not emptiness, but power. As we step into the first chapter, imagine sitting across from someone who asks, with innocent curiosity, "How old are you?" It sounds harmless, doesn't it? Yet in that small question hides a quiet judgment, a hidden frame through which the world begins to measure your worth. They see a number and not a soul, a timeline and not a story, a statistic and not a spirit still alive with possibility. But life, as Marcus Aurelius wrote, is not measured in years but in actions, in the quality of your thoughts and the strength of your will. The Stoics knew that time is not our master, it is our companion. We travel alongside it, not beneath it. When society worships youth as if it were virtue itself, wisdom begins to feel invisible. The young are praised for potential, the old dismissed as echoes of what was. Yet the truth is inverted. The older you grow, the more of life you have truly touched, felt, survived, understood. Age, if seen rightly, is not a number climbing toward decline. It is a record of battles fought and lessons earned. Still, most people don't see that. Once they know your age, they begin to place you in a category. They speak slower, as if your hearing fades. They offer advice you never asked for. They project their fears of aging onto you, turning your years into a cage. Subtle as smoke, ageism seeps into every conversation, a quiet undercurrent of condescension disguised as concern. The Stoics would tell us this: do not let others define you by their illusions. You could leave life right now, Marcus Aurelius reminded himself. Let that determine what you do and say and think. Each day, each moment, is its own lifetime. To be alive is to hold eternity in a breath. Let me tell you something I've learned watching people chase the illusion of staying young. They dye their hair, hide their hands, soften their truth to appear more appealing to a world obsessed with freshness. But the world that demands youth also fears mortality. It cannot look at wrinkles without confronting its own end. So when you keep your age to yourself, you are not hiding. You are protecting your peace from those who project their insecurities onto your timeline. You are preserving the sanctity of your story, refusing to let it be reduced to digits and decades. Seneca warned that we are always complaining that our days are few, while living as though they would never end. What a paradox, mourning time while wasting it. When you focus on how many years you have lived, you lose sight of how deeply you are living them. When you count time instead of meaning, you trade presence for anxiety. But when you stop measuring, life expands again. Suddenly, a single morning feels infinite. A conversation becomes eternal. You realize that the purpose of life was never to extend it endlessly, but to inhabit it fully. Think of someone who never tells their age. Notice how they move through the world, calm, deliberate, untouched by comparison. People cannot label what they do not know. They see presence, not number. They respond to energy, not chronology. Such a person walks free from the invisible chains of expectation. They do not act young for their age. They simply act alive. That is true freedom. So keep your age private, not because you are ashamed, but because you are wise. You owe no one the metrics of your existence. The passing of years does not define the depth of your soul. You are not the calendar on the wall. You are the flame that keeps burning, regardless of the season. Let others chase numbers. You chase moments. Because when the final day comes, and it will, what will matter most is not how long you lived, but how fully you stood awake in the time you were given. And from here, we move to something even more revealing, what you choose to share about your wealth. For just like age, the measure of your worth should never be left for others to calculate. Moving into the second chapter, imagine standing in a quiet room where every conversation around you hums with the same question, spoken or unspoken. How much are you worth? Not your kindness, not your wisdom, your worth in numbers, the digits in your account, the weight of your possessions. It's strange, isn't it? How a world so loud about freedom quietly chains itself to wealth. Money surrounds us, yet somehow rules us from a distance. It fills the spaces between people, sometimes with gratitude, sometimes with greed. We need it to live, but we often let it define how we live. By the time you've walked a few decades on this earth, you've seen both sides of it. You've seen people ruin relationships for the sake of profit. You've seen others lose their peace chasing what they already had enough of. And if you've been around long enough, you learn something subtle but powerful. The more you reveal about your money, the less control you have over it. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus reminded us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. He was right. True abundance has nothing to do with what fills your pockets. It's what empties your mind of craving. The one who craves less owns more than kings. But the moment people know what you have or what you lack, you lose your quiet power. If you are wealthy and make it known, suddenly you stop being a person. You become a resource. Friends begin to call with hidden motives. Family starts to shape their needs around your supposed generosity. Requests turn to expectations, and expectations harden into resentment. Kindness stops being a choice, it becomes a debt. And when generosity is no longer given freely, it loses its soul. But the reverse is just as cruel. Speak too openly about struggle, and you invite judgment instead of compassion. The same people who once smiled may now look at you differently, measuring your effort, your choices, your worth. In a world obsessed with status, financial vulnerability becomes social vulnerability. The Stoics would say this is folly. Seneca warned, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Those who chase endless gain are slaves, bound not by iron, but by desire. Let me tell you about a man I once knew. He lived simply, in a modest home by the sea. No one knew the extent of his wealth. He dressed plainly, spoke softly, and gave quietly. When he helped someone, it was always anonymous. I once asked him why he never revealed his success. He smiled and said, "Because the moment people know, they stop seeing me, they see what they want from me." That stayed with me. His silence wasn't secrecy, it was sovereignty. Keeping your financial life private isn't about shame or hiding. It's about protecting the sanctity of your choices. It's about walking through the world without being boxed in by the expectations of others. The less people know about your resources, the freer you are to live on your own terms, to give because you choose to, not because you're expected to enjoy what you've earned without performing it for approval. There's a saying, money talks, but wealth whispers. True prosperity doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't shout. It moves quietly like water, powerful, patient, and self-contained. So keep your finances private, not from fear, but from strength. Let your dignity be the currency that never devalues. Because the richest man is not the one who owns the most, but the one who remains unbought. From here, let's turn to another sacred territory, the place where loyalty, love, and silence must coexist, the secrets of the family. Entering the third chapter, picture a quiet evening at home, the kind of silence that holds 1,000 unspoken words, a table where generations have sat, argued, laughed, and reconciled. Every family has that table. Every family has those moments, tender and turbulent, sacred and scarred. It's in this space that our greatest lessons about love, patience, and restraint are learned. Family is our first teacher in both virtue and chaos. It teaches us how to care and how to forgive, but also how easily love can turn sharp when pride gets involved. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be tolerant with others and strict with yourself." That wisdom, though simple, could save 1,000 families if truly understood. Because most conflicts within the home are born from the opposite, we become harsh with those closest to us and lenient with ourselves. We demand understanding but rarely offer it. Now imagine a private argument. Maybe between siblings over old wounds, or between parent and child, years of misunderstanding compacted into a few heavy words. It happens in every home, but here's the danger. When those moments leave the walls of the house, when anger is aired to outsiders, the wound deepens. What was meant to heal becomes spectacle. Opinions pour in, gossip spreads, and the sacred space of family becomes public property. Trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. When you tell the world of your family's flaws, you invite people who do not understand its history to shape its story. They will not protect it the way you would. They will judge without context, and that judgment will echo long after your anger fades. What could have been resolved in patience becomes permanent through exposure. The Stoics remind us we cannot control others, only ourselves. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, Epictetus said, so that we may listen twice as much as we speak. Silence in this case is not avoidance, it is protection. It is the decision to guard what is sacred from those who would never understand its weight. To keep family matters private is not to pretend all is well, it is to handle them with dignity. It means addressing problems directly with those involved, not feeding them to the world for validation. It means healing within, not wounding outwardly. I once knew a woman who, in her youth, spoke freely about her family's flaws to anyone who would listen. She thought honesty meant exposure. Years later, after her parents were gone, she confessed regret. "I didn't realize," she said, "that I wasn't protecting their mistakes. I was exposing their humanity." That sentence has never left me. Because the truth is, every family has its shadow. To speak of it without care is to turn the people who loved you most into stories for others' amusement. When we guard our family's privacy, we preserve a space for reconciliation. We keep open the possibility that the same hands that once hurt us might one day reach for peace. Oversharing shuts that door, silence leaves it ajar. So honor your family, not by defending its perfection, but by preserving its trust. The world doesn't need to know your storms. It needs to see your steadiness. In a time where oversharing is glorified, restraint has become an act of rebellion. Hold your home like a sanctuary. Let it be the place where words are measured, where dignity is guarded, where healing can breathe without judgment. Because in a world that trades secrets for sympathy, the wisest thing you can do is to remain silent. From here, let's move toward another intimate truth, your health. Because even the strength of the body, if revealed carelessly, can be misunderstood by those who do not know the strength of your spirit. At this stage, imagine walking into a room where everyone already knows what you're going through, the medication you take, the pain you endure, the illness you battle in silence. They mean well, most of them do, but the moment they know too much, something changes. Their eyes soften with pity. Their tone becomes careful. The air shifts. You stop being you, the thinker, the creator, the strong one, and start being the person they worry about, the one they must handle delicately. And that quiet change can feel heavier than the illness itself. Health, in truth, is one of life's great equalizers. It humbles kings and commoners alike. No title, no fortune, no wisdom can make us immune to the natural wear and tear of time. As the Stoics saw it, this fragility isn't a curse, it's a mirror. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The body may falter, but the mind, if trained, can remain unconquered. Still, there's a reason the wise keep their ailments to themselves. Because the moment you reveal too much, your story stops belonging to you. It becomes open terrain for others' opinions, their fears, their unsolicited cures. You'll hear a flood of advice dressed as concern. Try this herb. Take that diet. I read an article that will fix everything. Their words may carry kindness but not understanding, and in trying to help, they end up pulling you away from peace, feeding noise into what should remain quiet strength. I once met a man in his 70s who had battled illness for years. Few knew the details, because he never spoke of them. He walked every morning, worked with his hands, and carried himself with the calm of someone who had accepted the terms of life. When asked why he kept his condition private, he said, "Because I don't want people to see my sickness before they see my soul." That answer held more wisdom than any medical advice could offer. Seneca once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." Those words strike deeper when the body becomes a daily test. To rise each morning, to move through pain with dignity, that too is philosophy in motion. It's the art of endurance. And endurance, the Stoics taught, is not about pretending to be unbroken. It's about standing upright, even while the storm passes through you. There's another reason for discretion, peace of mind. When others know too much about your health, they start writing parts of your story without permission. They assume weakness where there is resilience. They offer sympathy when all you seek is normalcy. And slowly, without meaning to, they shrink your world into the shape of your diagnosis. Privacy becomes a kind of medicine, one that protects your dignity, your autonomy, and your identity. Keeping your health private doesn't mean denying pain. It means refusing to let pain define you. It's the choice to seek help where it's needed, but not validation where it's not. It's about preserving the stillness within you, the space where strength regenerates away from the world's noise. So guard your health like sacred ground. Speak of it wisely. Share it only with those who have earned the right to know. Because your illness is not your identity. Your diagnosis is not your destiny. The Stoics taught us that strength is not found in lamenting our burdens, but in carrying them with grace. Protect your peace. Carry your challenges quietly. Let the world see not your condition, but your composure. From here, we step into another kind of intimacy, the realm of love, desire, and connection. Because even in matters of the heart, silence can be the highest form of respect. From here, picture two people sitting together long after the world has fallen silent. No performance, no mask, just presence. A hand resting on another, a look that holds decades of history. This is intimacy in its truest form, not the kind that burns quickly in public view, but the one that glows quietly in the shadows, sustained by trust and mutual understanding. Sexuality, when stripped of pretense, is one of life's purest expressions of connection. It's not merely physical, it's emotional, spiritual, even philosophical. It's where vulnerability meets strength, where we reveal not just our bodies, but our truth. Yet in a culture that shouts every desire, every confession, every secret, we have forgotten that some things are sacred precisely because they remain unspoken. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And what are our thoughts, if not the guardians of what we hold dear? The Stoics believed that what is sacred must be protected, not displayed. They understood that our most private bonds lose their purity the moment they are exposed to the world's judgment. Once intimacy is shared too freely, it stops being intimacy. It becomes content. It becomes noise. I once spoke with a man who had been married for over 40 years. When asked the secret to such longevity, he smiled and said, "Because what's between us stays between us." That line struck deep. In a world where people seek validation by sharing their private lives online, he and his wife had built an invisible fortress around their connection. It wasn't secrecy, it was sanctity. Their silence wasn't distance, it was depth. Seneca offered timeless wisdom when he said, "Enjoy present pleasures in such a way as not to injure future ones." The Stoics were not against love or pleasure. They simply understood its fragility. When you parade your private moments before others, you invite interference, misunderstanding, and envy. The opinions of strangers can do more harm than silence ever could. Intimacy is not meant to be debated. It's meant to be lived, guarded, and cherished. And as the years pass, something beautiful happens. The intensity of youth softens into the steadiness of companionship. Passion evolves into peace. Connection becomes quieter, deeper, more meaningful. The body may change, but the soul learns to love with more wisdom and less noise. The world may treat this stage as decline, but in truth, it is refinement, the kind of love that has been tempered by time and purified by experience. So keep your intimate life private, not because you are ashamed, but because you understand its value. What is sacred should never be handled carelessly. Let your love be a temple, not a marketplace. Protect the space between you and your partner from the eyes that seek to interpret, compare, or corrupt it. Wisdom lies in restraint. Strength is found in silence. Fulfillment does not come from the approval of others, but from the quiet certainty of mutual respect. Let your intimacy be your secret garden, untouched by gossip, unspoiled by curiosity, known only to those who have earned entry. For what blooms in private lasts longer, and what is guarded grows stronger. Advancing to the next reflection, we move from love's inner sanctuary to another test of character, the way we give. Because even generosity, when paraded before others, can lose its soul. Now imagine a quiet act of kindness, no applause, no witnesses, just you doing what is right because it is right. There's a certain beauty in that, a kind of strength that never seeks a stage. In an age where every good deed is broadcast for attention, genuine generosity has become an endangered virtue. True giving doesn't crave recognition. It breathes in silence. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others." It is not to be lived by reference to others, but by following the inner light. To give quietly is to follow that light. It means letting your conscience, not the crowd, guide your actions. The Stoics believed that virtue is its own reward, and that the purest form of charity asks for nothing in return. The moment we seek praise for our generosity, we poison its purpose. I once witnessed an act that defined this truth. A man at a cafe noticed a young woman struggling to pay her bill. Without a word, he signaled to the cashier, covered her meal, and left before she even realized it. No thanks, no validation, no post online, just quiet goodness. Later, when she learned what had happened, she wept. Not for the money, but for the grace of being helped without being seen. That's what Stoic giving looks like. Dignity preserved on both sides. Seneca warned, "A benefit is rendered worthless by the expectation of gratitude." The Stoics gave because it was in harmony with their nature, not to build reputation or earn applause. A person who gives to be admired is not generous, they are performing. But a person who gives and forgets has touched virtue itself. Modern life has distorted this truth. We turn virtue into display and compassion into trade. We film our charity and hashtag our virtue. But once giving becomes a spectacle, it loses its soul. When generosity is tied to ego, it stops being about the one in need. It becomes about the one who gives. Yet real charity protects not just the giver, but the receiver. Not everyone wants to be known as someone who needed help. To reveal their struggle is to expose their pride. Public charity can wound those it intends to heal. Quiet generosity, on the other hand, uplifts without humiliation. It allows the other person to stand tall, not indebted, but honored. The Stoics understood that the greatest kindness preserves dignity. So give quietly. Give as the earth gives, without announcement, without condition. Whether it's your time, your money, or your presence, let it flow freely and disappear without noise. You'll find that such giving leaves the deepest mark, not on the world, but within your soul. Wealth, time, and resources are only tools. What matters is how you use them. Every quiet act of charity is a dialogue between your conscience and your character. You don't need witnesses, you only need integrity. Let your generosity whisper. Let it move unseen through the world. For what is given in silence multiplies in peace. And from here we move toward another kind of wealth, not material, not visible, but the kind earned over a lifetime of choices. Honor, because true respect is not declared, it's lived. Advancing to the seventh reflection, picture a flame burning quietly in the dark. It doesn't boast, it doesn't shout for attention, yet its light is undeniable. That is what honor is, steady, contained, and alive on its own terms. The moment you fan it too hard with pride or recognition, it flickers, then fades. Honor, as the Stoics saw it, isn't something you demand, it's something you become. It is carved through years of discipline, honesty, and restraint. Epictetus once said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That single truth separates those who chase appearances from those who live with integrity, because life will test you, publicly and privately. And when it does, honor is revealed not by your words, but by how you carry yourself when no one is watching. By the time we reach the middle of life, after raising children, building careers, enduring failures, and collecting quiet victories, we begin to understand this. True respect never needs to be advertised. In a world obsessed with validation, silence has become the ultimate statement of strength. The more you announce your achievements, the more you dilute their meaning. What should speak through your example ends up buried beneath your own voice. Seneca warned, "It is the mark of an unstable mind to seek admiration from others." When your worth depends on being seen, it is no longer yours. It belongs to those whose opinions shift like the wind. Real honor is self-contained. It doesn't beg to be noticed. It simply radiates through consistent character. I once met a craftsman who had worked for decades in the same small workshop. He built furniture by hand, one piece at a time, no logo, no fame. When I asked if he ever thought about branding himself, he smiled. "If the table stands for 100 years," he said, "that's all the name I need." His humility was disarming, yet everyone who owned one of his creations spoke his name with quiet respect. That is the paradox of honor. The more you seek it, the further it drifts. The more you live it, the closer it comes. That is the paradox of honor. The more you seek it, the further it drifts. The more you live it, the closer it comes. The Stoic path teaches us to act, not to announce, to build, not to brag. When you live by principle, you don't need to remind the world who you are. They will feel it. They will see it in how you speak, how you keep your word, how you handle injustice without bitterness and success without arrogance. Honor is earned in those small, invisible choices, the ones no one applauds, but everyone senses. And there's another truth few dare to admit. Constant self-promotion breeds quiet resentment. The more you parade your greatness, the more others wish to see you fall. But the one who moves humbly, steadily, without noise, earns something deeper than fame, trust. People may forget your titles, your wealth, even your words, but they never forget how your presence made them feel. So let your legacy be felt, not flaunted. Let your actions, not your announcements, carry your name forward. In the end, honor is not a performance, it is a way of being. It's the calm assurance that you've lived with principle, even when no one was watching. Walk through life like that quiet flame. Let it burn steadily, without need for praise. Because when you live in alignment with virtue, respect becomes inevitable. You won't have to ask for it, it will follow. And from here, we turn to the final reflection, the art of letting go of insults and past wounds. Because even the most honorable life will be tested by the cruelty of others, and the greatest victory is not revenge, but peace. Entering the final reflection, imagine walking through life carrying a heavy bag. Inside it are all the insults, the betrayals, the small humiliations that once cut you open. You tell yourself you've moved on, but every so often you unzip that bag, take one memory out and hold it again. It burns the same as it did years ago. That's the quiet cruelty of resentment. It disguises itself as strength, but drains you from within. Insults are inevitable. No one walks through life untouched. People will misunderstand you, dismiss you, sometimes even try to wound you deliberately. But the Stoics taught that what truly hurts us is not the insult itself, it's our decision to keep it alive. Epictetus said, "If someone is able to provoke you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, they can only hurt you if you give them permission to stay inside your mind. I once met a man who carried decades of bitterness toward a colleague who had humiliated him publicly. "I forgave him," he said, "but I'll never forget." Yet every time he told the story, his face would tighten, his tone would harden. He didn't realize he wasn't retelling a story, he was reopening a wound. The colleague had long forgotten the incident. The only one still bleeding was him. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you replay the words of those who wronged you, you surrender that power. You turn a fleeting moment into a permanent scar. But when you let go, when you refuse to carry what was never yours to keep, you reclaim your freedom. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, isn't softness. It's clarity, It doesn't excuse the act, it removes its hold on you. It means saying, you no longer decide how I feel. It's the courage to move forward without dragging the past behind you. Seneca once wrote, "To carry anger is to be chained to another person's faults." That's the essence of it. Every grudge ties you to the one who hurt you. Every time you relive it, you tighten the knot. So how do you release it? By refusing to feed it. Stop talking about it. Stop rehearsing it in your mind. Stop using your pain as proof of your depth. Pain doesn't make you profound. What you do with it does. Keep your wounds private, and you'll give them a chance to heal in silence. Share them too widely, and the world will keep touching them with unclean hands. Letting go isn't forgetting. It's remembering differently. It's seeing the past not as a weight, but as a teacher. Every insult, every loss, every injustice can either break you or refine you. The Stoics chose refinement. They turned pain into discipline, hurt into wisdom, and insult into silence. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this worth giving my peace away? Because nothing they say can truly harm you unless you make it part of who you are. Let go. Not for them, but for yourself. Because freedom is not found in revenge, it's found in release. And as this reflection ends, remember this: silence is not weakness, it is mastery. To walk through the noise of life without carrying its echo inside you, that is true strength. As you continue your journey through life, remember that wisdom is not defined by how much you say, but by how much you understand what is worth keeping within. The Stoics taught that silence is not emptiness, it is composure, it is control, it is power. What you choose to keep private becomes the foundation of your peace and the armor of your dignity. The world will always invite you to reveal more, to prove more, to expose what should remain sacred. But every time you choose restraint, you strengthen the bond between who you are and who you are becoming. The 8 things we explored are not rules of secrecy. They are reminders of self-respect. When you protect what is personal, you protect your peace of mind. You teach others that your value does not depend on approval, validation, or curiosity. It lives quietly inside you. The one who guards his truth walks lighter, freer, untouched by the noise that consumes others. Before you leave, take a breath and think of one truth in your life that deserves silence. Hold it close. Let it remind you of your own power. Then share a simple comment below. Keep it private. Those 3 words are your affirmation, a small act of grounding this lesson in action. If these insights resonated with you, consider subscribing to stay connected with more reflections on stillness, strength, and self-mastery. It is not about following rules. It is about learning to live with awareness, to walk through a loud world with quiet confidence, to stand calm while others seek validation. Carry this truth forward. What you protect shapes who you become. What you keep in silence grows in strength, and what you guard with intention will one day guard you in return. Stay steady, stay thoughtful, and prepare for the next lesson, where we will go even deeper into the art of living with unshakable presence and quiet power.